Welcome to Player Profiler Today. I'm your host, Jake, back for another episode. You can follow my stuff on X, or some still call it Twitter, Louis Lewis 5. Today I dig deep into the latest fantasy action. I also break down some key injuries, sophomore quarterbacks, division rival matchups, and finally cover Monday night's matchups tonight between Cleveland Browns and Denver Broncos. Let's get fantasy. The top story, as a lot I've already heard, is injuries. I wasn't, yesterday I was making up my show sheet. I wasn't planning on doing anything about injuries until the big news happened and the injury to most 101 picks and redrafts leagues. Christian McCaffrey injured his knee during Sunday Night Football snow game versus the Bills. It is being reported Christian McCaffrey's, the running back for the 49ers, will be missing the rest of the season with a PCL injury to his knee. This is huge news. Is hard not to share with you fantasy gamers, so this is why I'm covering a few of the key injuries recent week. It's been reported for Adam Schefter, he is going to be missing the rest of the season. It's not been confirmed, but so check, make sure that is going to be confirmed. But also, if you have Jordan Mason on your waivers, put a claim in tonight, right now. Go out there and get him and make him your season league winner. He is a championship type player if indeed McCaffrey does become done for the rest of the season. Go out and get Jordan Mason. If you already have him, hey, way to hold on to him. It's going to be a huge sigh of relief, especially for any waivers. Actually, you want to lock up these, handcuff running backs going forward, especially since most of us only have one more week of regular league, and then it's start of the playoffs for fantasy. Another key injury is Taysom Hill. He is also out for the season with a knee injury. He was just getting into his groove the last couple of weeks since Dennis Allen's firing. This is very unfortunate. The Swiss Army knife is no longer in effect for the rest of the season. And one last big injury news is Trevor Lawrence suffering a concussion on a brutal late hit from the Texans player Elshier. If I am the Jacksonville Jaguars, I am not playing Trevor Lawrence the rest of the season. What's the reason to play him? There is nothing that you're going to gain. This just can solidify that number one overall draft pick, which will be 3 times in the last 5 years for the Jags. Also, there's no point. You could just put Mac Jones in and, lose. There's no point of winning. You have nothing to play for. He almost had a comeback game this past week, but he still fell short and gave you a loss. I just don't see what's the use of putting Trevor Lawrence back in there. He did suffer concussion, by the way. I didn't say that. It is just a vicious hit. He did slide a little bit late, but still, you already know he's not a running quarterback that's going to run you over. He's going to slide. It's just such bad. There's nothing to play for. Wave the white flag. You only have pride. Doug Peterson, I'm sorry, next year you have no job on Jacksonville. You're not going to be a head coach. Might as well start over fresh, new, and see what you get out of the draft at the number 101. They could chalk the 2024 season as a dud. Also, next, I'm going to be covering the sophomore slumps. It is a real thing, but before that, I'm going to let you guys hear from the man, the myth, the legend, the Podfather.
Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator app. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add Superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from Player Profiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer, so you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team, and then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side, prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing, and it's going to be well worth it.
Yeah, definitely go out and check out the Dynasty Dominator app. I have it myself. Great app to use. Story number 2 of the day, sophomore slumps is a real thing for quarterback. In the 2022 NFL draft, the 2023 NFL draft, there was 14 total quarterbacks taken. A few of them aren't even in the league anymore or even on teams, or they just get labeled as emergency quarterbacks on game day. As of the 14, only 5 have started a game this year. We'll start with the first one, Aiden O'Connell for the Las Vegas Raiders. He has drawn 3 starts so far this season. Unfortunately, in week 7, he fractured his thumb, but with Gardner Minshew out now with a broken collarbone, so insert Aiden O'Connell. First game back, he actually got elevated from the IR on Friday, and he played Friday against a back-to-back defending champs in week 13. He took him to the brink of an upset, but unfortunately, miscues cost them toward the end of the game. In the 3 games Aiden O'Connell has started, he's averaging 206 yards passing, 1 touchdown, and 1 turnover. That is not what we want from a quarterback in fantasy. He will start the rest of the season, so hopefully he can bring those numbers up. But as a rookie, he did finish quarterback 28 overall, which is not what we fantasy gamers would like. And this year, it's to be seen, but he has yet to show me any impression of him being good this year. Will Levis started 9 games this year due to injured shoulder. He's currently averaging 184 yards passing, 1.33 touchdowns per game. He's adding 19 yards rushing, but turns the ball over way too much. 12 interceptions, 6 fumbles, which 4 of them he's lost, and he's been sacked 37 times this year. That's 4 sacks per game when he starts. Horrible. Not what I want to see. He has had 1 top 10 finish, but he is only getting 12.3 fantasy points per game. He is currently ranked quarterback 30 on the season. Last year, he finished as quarterback 33. He has not made much improvement in my eyes, and that is not what we want as fantasy gamers. Next, the 4th overall draft pick in the 2022 NFL draft, Anthony Richardson. He was a raw talent coming out of Florida. We all knew this. He only had, I think, 15 games total started since high school. And that showed, obviously, in the NFL. In his first couple games as a rookie, he looked great for fantasy, except for he needs to learn how to slide. He got injured. He had concussion injury, shoulder injury, which actually made him not play the rest of the season. But we all saw flashes of how explosive he could be. In startup drafts, dynasty leagues, he was probably going in the top 10 of a Superflex league. A couple games this season, he showed flashes, but then there's a lot of games he showed duds. The inconsistency, the horrible play, the decision-making, and got benched for Joe Flacco. The old man still had it. We seen it last year. He showed flashes that for the Browns. He took them to the playoffs, but old age caught up to him. And then this year he had great games as well. And again, his old age caught up to him. And Colts decided to go back to Anthony Richardson. In his first game as a starter after all the benching, he was great, but he's still horrible with decision making. His completion percentage is a nightmare, and that's not what I want to see. You look at some of the games, 9 for 30, 10 for 30. This is not what we want to see for a quarterback that has potential, but this year he's just looked horrible. Obviously, the Colts felt the same. This is why he got benched in favor of Joe Flacco. I mean, come on, Joe. He's the only thing that he's got is his rushing ability. His pass decisions are terrible. They need to be worked. You can't trust. He turns the ball over a lot, and he is who he is. To me, he's been relatively disappointing if you drafted him last year in dynasty leagues as the 101 or 10 through 104. He's picked in between there, but you look at the other players you could have picked, you're kind of probably kicking yourself in the butt. Next, we have the Rookie of the Year 2023 season, CJ Stroud. As a rookie, he was unbelievable. He had a great rookie campaign, making him in startup super flexes, dynasty-wise, a top 5 pick at least. I know personally people trading 3 top, first-round picks for him in a super flex, which at the time I didn't blame him. I advised him I would be trading this for CJ Stroud. Yes, he's only 22, but this season there were a couple games he looked the part of his rookie season, but mostly it just looks rough for him. I have a hard time thinking he's going to be great this year, the rest of the season. He's looked like he fell off. Hell, he almost got beat last week or yesterday by Jacksonville Jaguars team that doesn't have anyone, especially after they lost Trevor Lawrence. Just not a good playing. He's got a healthy Nico. The Texans are actually now leaning on Joe Mixon and running the offense through him rather than CJ Stroud like they did his rookie year. He only has 2 top 10 finishes on the season. Everyone's talking so much smack about Jordan Love throwing interceptions every day or every week. The last 2 weeks he hasn't. But before that, they wanted Malik Willis to start over Jordan Love. Get out of here. But yet we look at CJ Stroud. He's turning the ball over every single game too. And barely beating horrible teams in his division. And we have to stop and think and start actually looking and maybe pointing fingers at him. Turning the ball over is not the right way to go. It's just been a bad fantasy year for CJ Stroud. Finally, the number 1 overall pick, Bryce Young out of Alabama, as a rookie last year, who by far was the worst quarterback in the league, in my opinion, making terrible decisions, having bad reads after bad reads. Carolina Panthers traded up from, I think, pick 9 to get the number 1 overall pick. They actually traded the 2024 first rounder to the Chicago Bears, who actually got the number 1 overall draft pick and selected Caleb Williams. Now insert 2024 season for Bryce Young. At the beginning of the year, again, he just looks so awful and terrible. And he got benched for the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton. Much like Richardson, he took the path behind him, sitting behind a veteran quarterback. And hopefully he learned, because finally he got the opportunity to start only because Andy Dalton got in the car accident and got hurt. But once he came back as a starter, he won back-to-back games before hitting their bye week. Then week 12, almost beating the back-to-back defending champs, Kansas City, taking them right down to the wire. And then played even better this week and took Tampa Bay Buccaneers to overtime. But he's still struggling. For me, he's not getting the job done. He's not giving you much fantasy points. He is a pocket passer. He barely runs, even though he did score this past week against the Buccaneers. He's just looked bad, and he got benched for the Red Rocket, who, in my opinion, only had one good game and looked terrible the rest. Maybe that's why they switched back, because they just look horrible. So I do believe there is a thing called QB Sophomore Slump. Mainly just look at CJ Stroud. The fall off from his rookie year is straight proof of that. And the last story I'm going to cover, we'll make this quick because we want to get into tonight's matchups, is the division rival matchups are a big thing, especially coming late in the season with fantasy playoffs coming. We got to be looking out for this. We'll start with Thanksgiving games. Hopefully everyone had a great Thanksgiving and a great time. Maybe you bought stuff online or shopped till you dropped before the prime game on Friday as well. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. But getting back into this Thanksgiving game, the Chicago Bears took on the Detroit Lions, which this game was 23-20. The Lions won, but it gave you everything you could ask for in fantasy aspect. Ton of yards by both teams. Caleb Williams looking like a professional quarterback outside of the last 45 seconds. If you don't know what I mean, you guys could always look it up. DeAndre Swift getting bobbled up again against a bad matchup for him. Detroit Lions are great against the run. If you played him, I feel sorry. He only caught a little bit, but I did not like the matchup at all. DJ Moore, on the other hand, getting the ball like he did the week before. He continues to impress under the new offense coordinator. And now the new interim coach for the Chicago Bears, Thomas Brown. On the other side, Detroit Lions, Jared Goff looked decent, not the best, but not one of his 4 touchdown performances that we see here and there. Is just a good game for him being a clock manager. David Montgomery did play. We didn't know if he was going to play after the injury he suffered in week 12. It looks like he played roughly about 50% and had himself a decent game. He also shared with Jahmyr Gibbs, which Jahmyr Gibbs looked great all game. Much better runner than David Montgomery. 87 yards and a touchdown. Should have been a whole lot more, but they decided to do more of the ground and pound with Montgomery. This gives you the what if feeling as a fantasy gamer. What if David Montgomery did miss the game? How many points would Jahmyr Gibbs got? Put in the comments how many points you think he would have got if he would have had the backfield to himself. For receivers, Jameson Williams got you his average, 9 points. Amon-Ra St. Brown, his floor game, 12 points. It just seems like this year he's getting you either 12 or 30. It's just inconsistent. And Sam Laporta joined the action with a touchdown again. He actually has been relatively disappointing so far this season, taking roughly about the 303 in redrafts, not what we are getting on return. Also, on Thanksgiving, the Giants getting their butts kicked in pretty much every aspect from the Dallas Cowboys. I know the score was 27-20, but Giants just looked terrible. After releasing Daniel Jones and Tommy DeVito injured, he got injured. Drew Lock started. He only had 178 yards, but rushed 4 times for 57 and a touchdown. At running back, Tyrone Tracy struggled to get going. 32 yards. He had himself a touchdown as well. Malik Neighbors, though, I thought he was going to get a little bump with Drew Lock. I thought he was more of a competent quarterback to throw the ball. He got 8 catches, 69 yards. Neighbors does have a favorable matchup going forward for the rest of fantasy. Hopefully, just the quarterback force feeds him so we neighbor owners can eat. For the Cowboys, Cooper Rush, not really much relevance. Rico Dowell, hell of a game. 112 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. Great game. CD Lamb, for unfortunate, he did get injured. His shoulder, he did not play in the second half. That is another guy to be on the lookout. See what kind of injury report comes from him. And hopefully it's not long lasting. Then also talking about Friday before, shopping and all that. Hopefully you got done before this prime game between the Raiders and Kansas City. Raiders took it down to the wire, had a chance, but miscued for the game winner. They lost 17-19. Aiden O'Connell, 340 yards, 1 touchdown. It was his first start in a few weeks. He just got activated off the injured reserve because of his fractured thumb. Remember, Gardner Minshew is out the rest of the season with a broken collarbone. So Aiden O'Connell is going to be playing. So if you're looking for possibly a streamer next week, Aiden O'Connell possibility. Running back struggled. McCormick and Zamir White just didn't get it done. I think it's safe to say now, kiss Dylan Lobby goodbye. Didn't even play a single offensive snap. What high hopes we all had for him coming out in New Hampshire. It's just unfortunate he did not get any action. Brock Bowers, baby! Brocky, the baby, Travis Kelce, 10 catches, 140 yards, 1 touchdown. He is a must play the rest of the season. Jacoby Myers also contributing 6 catches, 97 yards. He's probably a must start as well going forward. He's looking great the last 2 weeks. On the other side, Patrick Mahomes, 306 yards passing, 1 touchdown. He's coming off of back-to-back top 10 finishes. He did well this week. Isaiah Pacheco, he is the guy going forward for this rushing attack for Kansas City. He got activated off the injury reserve. He had 7 carries, or he had, I think, 11 carries, or 7 carries compared to Kareem Hunt's 7 carries as well. But Pacheco looked a lot better running. Kareem Hunt came in late in the game. I just feel it's Pacheco's backfield. Receiving wise, Hopkins and Kelce did well. Hopkins had led the team with 4 catches, 90 yards, and Travis Kelce, 7 catches, 68 yards. Our favorite divisional matchup this week, Steelers and Cincinnati Bengals. Steelers won 44-38. Just touching base on some of this fantasy aspect. Russell Wilson went crazy. I don't know where the hell this came from. 414 yards, 3 touchdowns. Hopefully he was in your starting lineup. Najee Harris, 75 yards and a touchdown on 16 carries. This is his backfield, by the way. Jalen Warren only had 3 touches out of the backfield. It's Najee Harris's backfield going forward. George Pickens had a good game, 3 catches, 74 yards and a touchdown. I thought personally it was going to be much higher. I thought he was going to have a great game going against this weak secondary for the Cincinnati Bengals. Unfortunately, he did not. Joe Burrow continues to amaze us. 309 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Easily should be in the conversation of MVP. Unfortunately, his team is hot garbage. Chase Brown, another great player, 70 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Jamar Chase, of course, 6 catches, 86 yards, 1 touchdown. T. Higgins also added 5 catches, 69 yards, and a touchdown. The Steelers won the highest point total between the two, but the downfall with this, it could very well mean RIP to the Bengal players. Joe Burrow might get benched the rest of the season. They have like a 2% chance of making the playoffs. It's so devastating for us fantasy gamers that Joe Burrow, even Jamar Chase, any of these guys might get benched during the fantasy playoffs. So just be on the lookout for that going forward. It's scary. I don't like it. Quick touch and base. Houston Texans won barely against the Jacksonville Jaguars on a comeback. Jags scored 14 points in the fourth quarter, almost making a comeback. And CJ Stroud, I thought he was going to have a lot better game. Everything pointed arrows up, baby. But his numbers were down. 242 yards, 1 touchdown. I personally, in player props, I took his over for 269 yards passing. Total fail. And Joe Mixon continues, like I said earlier, the offense is running through him. 101 yards and 1 touchdown. They also have healthy Nico, 8 catches, 119 yards receiving. He is a hell of a receiver once he's healthy. His playoff schedule for fantasy looks good as gold. Look for him to have great numbers, and he easily can be a league winner going forward. Trevor Lawrence, I said out for the season. I would do. Travis Etienne's just been a failure in all aspects. Brian Thomas Jr., he had 4 catches, 76 yards, and a touchdown. Everyone's going to take a huge hit with Mac Jones being the starter, if that's how it's going to go with Trevor Lawrence. We'll skip down to the Monday night matchup. As we head into week 13 of the 2024 season, the Cleveland Browns are facing the Denver Broncos in a game that has plenty of implications for fantasy. Hopefully it's getting you to your fantasy playoffs one step closer at every time. For the Browns, quarterback Jameis Winston, for me, it's a tough matchup going against this better defense. The Broncos have shut down QBs like Baker Mayfield, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes. I really just don't like the matchup for Jameis Winston. He does turn the ball over quite a bit as well. So if you get negative points for that, I just don't like it. The only positive thing for us is he's going to be in a negative game script because I think they're going to be losing. Running back Nick Chubb, again, it's just a bad matchup against the Denver Broncos defense. They've held elite running backs such as Bijan Robinson to less than 40 yards, Breece Hall less than 10 yards, or he had 10 carries for 4 yards, and Alvin Kamara 7 rushes for 10 yards. These are 3 top 10 running backs in fantasy, all held with, under 40 yards. It's not a great matchup for Chubb. Wide receiver wise, Jerry Jeudy in the last 4 games, he is averaging 9 targets per game, catching 6 of them over the last 4 weeks. He's finished top 6 in 4 of those, or 3 of those 4 games. He's also getting 95 yards per game. For me, he's going against a better defense, one of the best corners in the league, Patrick Surtain, probably the best in my opinion. I just have a hard time with the matchup, but he is going to get spoon-fed, in my opinion, with Cedric Tillman out with a concussion. So I see him getting great numbers and great amount of targets, so he could be at play. David Njoku, myself, I'm hoping for him to not score any points because I need to make the playoffs. I need him not score more than 4 points, and I make the playoffs. Again, though, with Cedric Tillman, I get it. He's going to be out. Cedric Tillman's out with the concussion. So I think David Njoku is going to get more involved. He only had 1 catch, 9 yards last week. On the other side, Denver Broncos, Bo Nix, most impressive rookie by far, in my opinion. I mean, we've seen what we're going to get out of Jaden Daniels, but Bo Nix has been amazing. Since week 5, he's got 5 top 10 finishes. He is a great player to be played, especially this late in the week. If you're already planning on playing Bo Nix, good choice. Running back wise, 3-headed monster, Javonte Williams, Audric Esime, McLaughlin. Stay away from the rest of the season. Stay away from. You can't tell me there's one running back that made themselves a clear cut, the running back one. Javonte, he had like 8 rushes, -2 yards with a rush of 7 yards. Your other 7 rushes were -9 yards. No, thank you. Though, just stay away from. Even stay away from their tight ends, because Adam Trout, I don't like him. I'm starting to stay away. But his wide receiver, Cortland Sutton, this man has just been a boss as of late, killing it up. He's got 3 top 6 finishes in the last 4 weeks. So he is a must start for me. And I'm going to say it for the rest of the season. As long as, that I just love the fantasy matchups. As a whole, I think the Broncos continue to surprise, much like they have all done all season, winning. I'm sure I'm not alone, but I did not expect them. I only seen a 7-win team. They're going to win this game. I'm saying 24-13. That is a wrap. I got to get out of here. I got to get to my daughter's volleyball game. Looks like I might be a little late, but that is a wrap for today's episode of Player Profiler News. If you enjoyed this show and discussion, leave a like, follow, and subscribe. And remember, always check our Twitter for the latest updates. Good luck with your fantasy league week, and I'll catch you next time.